A very good evening to all of you. Today I will be reading the life of Sister Nivedita in a very short way, focusing on the teachings of Sister Nivedita, sayings of Sister Nivedita, and what the great persons said about Nivedita, especially our national freedom fighters. Today is the day when Sister Nivedita left her mortal body. She lived that great life for our country. We'll read in small her renunciation and the things we can learn from her. Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose says, "I learned to love India by reading Vivekananda, and I came to understand Vivekananda through Nivedita's writing." Surendranath Banerjee says, "Nivedita's every action, her every thought, all her emotions veered around India's hopes, aspirations and ideals. It seemed as if the liberated soul of some rishi of the olden days was reincarnated in her Western body, so that, vitalized by the life of the West, she might once again, amid familiar environments, serve the people of her ancient love. India's dream was Nivedita's dream. India's thinking found its expression in Nivedita. Each and every letter of her writings display what a wonderful capacity of hers to accept and assimilate the Indian mind. Her love for India conferred on her the wonderful insight about India." Bipin Chandra Pal says, "I doubt whether any Indian loved India the way Nivedita loved her." Among all the foreigners who loved India, Nivedita occupies the highest position, says Abanindranath Tagore. Dinesh Chandra Sen says, "I have only read in Gita about selfless work, but have hardly come across anyone with detachment like hers. I recognized in her the ideal worker, working without expecting any kind of return." O.C. Ganguly, a young artist in the days of Nivedita, later a distinguished artist and art critic, said, "It will be difficult to find out any movement initiated in modern Bengal, be it literary, artistic, archaeological or research work on the ancient history, which is not influenced by the writing of Nivedita." Now we will go to the sayings of Sister Nivedita. We are seeing that great life and what great people had to say on Sister Nivedita. Sayings of Sister Nivedita. From this we will see how our nation was so great in the past and in the present as well. Nivedita will show through her quotes, through her thoughts. We will read only few of them. Of course, it's not possible to read all of them, but to mark this special day we'll read few of them. Ramakrishna Vivekananda, "These two lives are the unity of India. All that is necessary is that India should keep them in her heart. I believe that India is one, indissoluble, indivisible. National unity is built on the common home, the common interest and common love. I believe that the present of India is deep rooted in her past, and that before her shines a glorious future. Our whole past shall be made a part of the world's life. That is what is called the realization of the national idea. In order to attain a larger power of giving, we may break through any barrier of custom, but it is written inexorably in the very nature of things that if we sacrifice custom merely for some mean and selfish motive, fine men and women everywhere will refuse to admit us to their fellowship. Selfless man is the thunderbolt. That is the very quote that Nivedita is famous for. Let us strive only for selflessness, and we become the weapon in the hands of the gods. Not for us to ask how, not for us to plan methods. For us it is only to lay ourselves down at the altar foot. And what she says, she actually practiced her whole life this. My object is to make you think and think. It is for you to determine the aims and functions of education. I love the sorrow and the struggle and the divine self-sacrifice that may be ours. Can we not cultivate in our children and ourselves a vast compassion? This compassion will make us eager to know the sorrows of all men, the griefs of our land, and the dangers to which in these modern days the religion is exposed. And this growing knowledge will produce strong workers for work's sake, ready to die, if only they may serve their country and fellow men. Throughout the world, the women are the guardians of humanity's ethical ideals. What Nivedita has to say on education. Education, that is the problem of India. How to give true education, national education. How to make you full men, true son of Bharatvarsha, and not poor copies of Europe. Your education should be an education of the heart and the spirit, and of the spirit as much of the brain. It should be a living connection between yourselves and your past as well as the modern world. What Nivedita has to say on women's education, because she has done a lot to spread this women education at those days, especially from the downtrodden houses. She used to go and make sure that their children get the true spirit of Indian education at those days. She has to suffer a lot, but she listened to his master's call, Swamiji. Women's education. Have the Hindu women of the past been a source of shame to us that we should hasten to discard their old time grace and sweetness, their gentleness and pity, their tolerance and childlike depth of love and pity, in favor of the first crude product of Western information and social aggressiveness, an education of the brain that uprooted humility and took away tenderness, would be no true education at all. The question has to be solved for Indian women, therefore, is a form of education that might attain this end of developing the faculties of soul and mind in harmony with one another. She was always focusing on the combination of heart and intelligence together. And in this particular respect, there is perhaps no other country in the world so fortunately placed as India. She is above all others, the land of great women. Whenever we turn, whether to history or literature, we are met on every hand by those figures whose strength she mothered and recognized, while she their memory held sacred. When we talk about the nationality, what Sister Nivedita has to say. The whole task is now to give the word nationality to India in all its breadth and meaning. The rest will do itself. India must be obsessed by this great conception. It means new views of history, of customs, and it means the assimilation of the whole Ramakrishna idea of religion, the synthesis of all religious ideas. It means a final understanding of the fact that the political process and economic disasters are only side issues that the one essential fact is realization of its own nationality by the nation. Throw yourselves, children of India, into their worship of this, the ancient chronicles, and your whole past. Strive passionately for knowledge. Yours are the spades and mattocks of the excavation. For with you, and not with the foreigner, are the thought and language that will make it easy to unearth the old significance. India's whole hope lies in a deeper research, a more rigid investigation of facts. With her, encouragement and not despair is on the side of truth. O nationality, come thou to me, as joy or sorrow, as honor or as shame, make me thine own. Tributes to Sister Nivedita we have read, and now we will see to some other aspects of Sister Nivedita if possible, because time is also limited to tell that great life of Sister Nivedita. We are reading from the book Nivedita of India. Now we will be reading the last chapter of a beautiful book. The last chapter is Passing into Eternity. It was April 7, 1911. From a distance, Nivedita saw the harbour line of Bombay. She was back again in India, the chosen land of her love and devotion. On coming to Calcutta, she met the Holy Mother, who had returned from South India on April 11. The Mother, Swami Sharadananda, and all others were sad to hear about Miss Bull's death. The Mother spoke about Mrs. Bull for a long time. She left for her village Jairambati on May 17. One day Nivedita went to the Belur Math and met Swami Brahmananda and Swami Turiyananda. She entered the Swami's room and sat in silent contemplation for some time. The curious premonition of death was growing stronger within her. In a letter written to Miss MacLeod in 1904, she had said, "Do you remember how Chairo foretold that I would die between the 42nd and the 44th year? I am now 36, so I suppose I shall this cycle too. I fancy I shall die in 1912. Will these years make a difference in the position of India? Shall I be allowed to see that I was of some use to Swamiji? I only want, I shall always only want, to be allowed to carry his burden. I don't care in the least about Mukti." That was the spirit of Swamiji's disciple, and that is the spirit how Ramakrishna Mission works. The goal is not just to get one's own salvation. This voice is getting echoed through Sister Nivedita as well. The same thoughts now assailed her mind. How much had she done to justify her claim to be the Swami's child? The lengthening shadows of the evening had cast their gloom all round. She prayed for light. During the summer, she went to Mayavati. With her were Dr. and Mrs. Bose and Aurobindo Bose, their nephew. During their 1 month stay there, she helped Dr. Bose with his new book. One day Dr. Bose delivered a lecture at the Ramakrishna Ashrama. On June 18, she addressed the sadhus and brahmacharis of the ashram on intellectual culture, in which she stressed the point that no distinction need be made between secular and religious culture of knowledge. On June 26, they left Mayavati and reached Calcutta via Kathgodam on July 3. Mrs. Bull's death created a new problem for Nivedita, and she felt anxious about the future of the school. Miss Bull had all along helped her with money, and she intended to bequeath some money to her also, so that she could spend it for various that were dear to her heart. She intended she could spend it for various causes that were dear to their heart. Nivedita felt that in case she herself died before Mrs. Bull, she would make known to her how she desired to utilize the money. She wrote to Christine for the work and her plans. On July 25, Swami Vivekananda's mother, Bhuvaneshwari Devi, died. The day she died, Nivedita was by her side and followed the dead body to the cremation grounds. 2 days later, Bhuvaneshwari Devi's mother died. After a few days, Nivedita received news that Mrs. Bull's daughter, Olia, had died on July 18. It has already been said how inimically disposed Olia had been to Nivedita in America and had caused her much worry. But her sudden and unexpected death shocked Nivedita. On August 21 came the news of Swami Ramakrishnananda's death, direct disciple of Sri Ramakrishna. During her lecture tour in South India, Nivedita had come in close contact with his spiritual giant, and since then had held him in great respect. He came to meet her whenever he came to Calcutta. It was he who encouraged her to write the life of Swami Vivekananda. 14 years of his life were given to Swami's work, and Nivedita always admired him as ideal of Karma Yogin. Christine, who had gone to Darjeeling after Nivedita's return to India in 1909, returned to Calcutta in February 1910. But in April the same year, for some personal reasons, she went to America. She returned to India in the beginning of 1911. After a few days' stay in Calcutta, she left for Mayavati with Mr. F.J. Alexander. We are seeing the last days. However, this unfortunate thing come to pass, and it added to Nivedita's depression. Christine did not return to Bospara Lane during Nivedita's lifetime. While she was in Mayavati, she received news of Nivedita's illness at Darjeeling. But before she could go to Darjeeling, Nivedita had left this mortal world. We keep up to this. We are seeing that great beautiful work. Girish Chandra Ghosh writes, "Pure Nivedita child, you always rejoiced when my new dramas were staged. My new drama is being staged now, but where are you? When I was lying ill before you left for Darjeeling, you had tenderly said to me, I hope to see you well again on return. I am still living, child. Why do you don't come to see me now? I hear that on your deathbed you remembered me. Engaged as you are in the Lord's work now, if you still remember me, accept this tearful gift of mine." Girish Chandra Ghosh, that great disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, whom Sri Ramakrishna also kept in high light. Thus ends the story of dedicated soul Nivedita of Ramakrishna Vivekananda, whose life was a fulfillment of her earnest prayer. God, grant me to speak brave true words in my Guru's name before I die, words with his life flowing through them, untainted, unimpaired, that I may feel passing into eternity, that I have not disappointed him. That is the beautiful thing. In reverential memory of Sister Nivedita, the public raised a samadhi over the sacred spot where she was cremated. In the lap of the Himalayas, where silence reigns supreme, stands even today the memorial which proclaims, "Here reposes Sister Nivedita, who gave her all to India." Thank you very much. In a very short perspective, we have seen that great life. It is not just a video. We will also have to see to her life in our own selves by having self-culture of what Sister Nivedita had said for all of us, especially for India, and what dream she left for us we had to fulfill. That dream that was continued by Nivedita, built by Swami Vivekananda, and also being continued till now by the Ramakrishna Matan Mission, the monks and the sannyasins of the order, and Sharada Math also. Thank you very much. Thank you. Jai Swamiji.